Hello, I'm Kate McKay, and welcome and thank you for joining me again for my interview sequencing in regards to how to not only survive, but thrive during this crisis. And thank you so much for joining me and being a part of this. This is all about building crazy connection in this time. And this has been a really meaningful process for me, and I'm really thankful that you're a part of it. Today, I'm introducing Amy Patterson, and Amy Patterson and I are going to be talking about how we can holistically navigate our way through this current healthcare crisis. And so Amy is the owner of a company called North Star Health Navigation. And what she does is she helps people have a greater understanding of their overall health and how to best advocate for their care, and how important right now is advocation as we move through this crisis. Amy is a nationally board certified physician's assistant with more than two decades of clinical experience. And she's a seasoned practitioner with an extraordinarily compassionate approach to patient care, and is 150% dedicated to empowering clients and people to navigate their way through the healthcare system and through life as a holistic practitioner. So welcome, Amy Patterson. I'm really thankful that you're here with me today. What up? So I always do that more formal invitation just so I can make sure people understand who I'm talking to. And then it's always the fun part, which is just like getting live with Amy, someone that I know and treasure very much. So Amy, thank you so much for coming here today.
Katie, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to sharing what we know together.
I know, I'm psyched. So Amy, talk to me, because, you know, Amy and I are like a couple of crazy nuts when we're together, because we have a lot of energy between us and a lot of passion and commitment to health and wellness and advocacy and care in regards to all aspects of yourself, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financially, and all of these different aspects. So Amy, what's up? How is this really, how are you managing? What's going on for you personally as you approach this crisis?
Well, I think like everybody else, I'm made a really difficult decision to not practice right now. I was practicing part-time in a clinic that was a non-essential clinic from my perspective. And I had to make a decision while that stayed open to really pull back from that and hunker down here at home, really in an effort to protect my family and also the patients who may not be fully aware of what's going on in this crisis. So that decision really brought my energy right back to home with my two college-age daughters who've appeared on the doorsteps here with all of their stuff. So we're trying to navigate a new normal here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big deal. And so I know that like oftentimes what I've been doing in these conversations is thinking about, okay, personally, how are you addressing it? And obviously a lot of us feel blessed that there is more time for us to actually get at these quote unquote projects of organizations and all these things that many of us are tooting about, oh, geez, what a blessing. And there is, yes, indeed, many, many blessings. But when we look at the other element of it is that there's a lot of unease and a lot of disjointed experience in ourselves. And I know, you're an empath. You're extraordinarily sensitive. And it's the reason why I was really glad to have you on here, because I know you feel and understand things at a whole nother level. But I would love it if you would share with me just a quick description of what is a virus. Like, just because I know you have an interest in immunology, I know that's not your expertise, but I love the way you describe it. And if you don't mind sharing that, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I want to just go back to a word that you used, a little bit of unease. When we think about unease or illness, it is dis-ease. Disease is really the root of really that being uneasy. And it's about our body being uneasy. And as many people may know, virus is not a living thing. It basically comes into our body and it takes hold. And this particular virus is an RNA virus. We do know that. Those viruses are, obviously difficult to treat. And this is unknown. We don't have any immunity to this. And I think the little understanding that I have, I've been reading about it for quite a bit. I've been following it since early January when it first became known in Wuhan, watching those numbers grow, watching the exponential growth of this. So I've been trying to absorb as much as I can. I understand that this, virus comes into our body, and there are many of us who aren't going to suffer too greatly for this. But as that viral load increases in our body needs to attack it. And it's almost like the disease also comes from our own body mounting a really great immune response to a very unfamiliar entity, which is this COVID-19 coronavirus. Sure, we've seen coronaviruses, they're colds, they're the common colds. We've studied those in medicine, throughout all these years. And I think a lot of people don't have that literacy of understanding really what is that coronavirus. I mean, there are multiple types of coronaviruses, just like there are multiple types of herpes viruses, whether it's, the cold sore virus or the chickenpox virus or the herpes zoster. This is the same idea in that we have multiple different types of coronaviruses, and this is a new one.
So when you're talking about our body mounting a defense, right? So our body basically goes, what is this, right? And it releases, just like we talked about this, about the stress response.
Yeah.
So when we're under great load stress, what do we release? So if you could just talk about where there is a parallel between a virus attacking and how maybe that stress impact and how we can, how can we navigate through that cycle of stress and virus and how they parallel and be able to approach this from a holistic approach?
Well, I was saying to Katie earlier that I think that this virus, our body does mount that large immune response. It basically releases these cytokines. You get a cytokine storm, which those are, immune cells in our body that can really cause a lot of the damage to the lungs and the disease that thus follows. In the same way, we have emotional stress. That emotional stress is something that I think that we're all going to have to work really hard to keep that under wraps, to breathe through that, to meditate through that, to be creative through that, to communicate, to share, because I think that when we don't do that, stress increases the release of the other chemical in our body called cortisol. And cortisol levels, as they rise, they do increase a risk of infection. I think, Katie, that's what you're talking about, maybe just looking at the dichotomy of those two things, the viral load, the great viral load, and how our body responds to that and basically attacks itself, or the emotional stress of living through this difficult time and how our cortisol levels rise, and how are we going to really tamp both. Mostly this type, we've got a little bit of control over the cortisol. And I think that's the piece that we might want to focus on. How can we, during this crazy time, this unfamiliar, uncharted territory, manage the emotional piece holistically so that we can be as well as we possibly can as we potentially become exposed to this virus.
Right, exactly. Well, I think it's also important to note too that, really it's in my book, and I talk to clients about this all the time, is it's either faith or fear. Right. Yeah. I'm not saying that, if you have faith, you don't have no fear, but I'm just saying that the decision making, if you're making it in a fear space or a faith space, and I'm not necessarily talking faith religion. What I'm talking about is faith that whatever happens, you're going to be okay. And what tools that you have in your fear space that you can develop and transmute them into a place where you're making decisions for yourself and others in a way that is healthy. And right now we need warriors. We need people to be healthy on all levels, because this is our time to rise. And that is 150% the reason why I am having you on, Amy, and interviewing a whole bunch of other change agents, because it is forcing us to awaken to what we need to do on all levels to conquer this together.
Right. And I think we've heard, like you used the word rise. I was saying to you, it's time for a lot of us to kind of find those leadership qualities within us to rise up, whether that's in, it could be just talking to our daughters or our children, rise up. It's time for us to be our best selves. And I think we have to remind ourselves of that every single day. We've got to remind, I need to be my best self for me, and I need to be my best self for my children and my family. And I think that they need to understand that they need to be their best selves as well. And really, what does that look like? What does that feel like? Because oftentimes I think we're so easy just to kind of fall into our funks and cop an attitude, or
Sure.
or whatever our lack of coping mechanisms are. So this is an opportunity for us to really hone in on some of those innate skills that we have, and also maybe borrow some skills and tools from others that we know have been
Right.
successful. And you mentioned also like the fear. Someone that you and I know well had shared with me a couple of years ago about my daughter traveling abroad and the anxiety. And she said, really, anxiety is excitement. And if we can turn around that anxiety and really, I know this is not an exciting time, but how can we just change our verbiage? How can we just change the way we think? In the same way we were talking about, that fear versus faith, or the isolation versus that sense of solitude, and to use other people's ideas. What I've heard, just really turning around our thought process, not just isolating. We are isolating, but it's time for us to come together in our isolation.
Right. And what I love about this, Amy, is how amazing is that like here we are face to face, like literally it is rare that we have this level of intimacy in real life.
I know.
I mean, it's like, how often do you give 150% presence to other people? And this has been my saving grace doing these interviews. And when I feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do interviews today, and I'm all nervous, like, oh, I got to, put on lipstick or whatever. And then I all of a sudden dropped in, like, here I am.
Right.
Here we are. And how are we going to be change agents and represent courage and strength, or whatever else we want to represent? And I love that idea about, you said, what does my life look like? And what is it going to feel like? Because that's an important quality, Amy. I know you're really super tapped into that. Can you talk a little bit more about that, and maybe providing some tools and strategies on ways that people can look and feel as though how they want to manifest this new birth? We're rebirthing. Right. We're rebirthing into our newest and highest version. That is what I hope and pray, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that, I think our whole entire world has been running so fast. We've been running, marathons at the pace of a sprint.
Yes.
And I think this is maybe the world, the universe, whatever you want to call it, its way of just saying, listen, slow it down, take a breath, and ground yourself for a bit. And let's rebirth, as you said. We're grounded. We're going to get planted again, and find ways to maybe reinvent ourselves through this process, maybe see things we never saw before, maybe be able to embrace, new activities, or pursue passions that we've had these ideas of and haven't had time to do. And I know that's not possible for everybody. And I don't want to dismiss the people that are sitting there, myself included. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We don't know what next month is going to bring. We don't know if we're going to have food on the table for our family, if we're going to have money still coming in. We don't know if one of us is going to fall ill. So there's a lot of uncertainty. So I think, to really, again, going back to being your best self, finding those tools, finding the comfort in that solitude, and connecting and buoying people up, lifting people up as we rise up ourselves. I think that as we help others, we help ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of what you're doing, Katie, reaching out to try and help people and share and connect, and it's going to make them feel better. And I can share with my family or my friends what I know and make those folks feel better, whether it's understanding of the virus, and that's the literacy piece of it. If we understand something, we have power over it. At least,
absolutely.
And I think the lack of understanding, that lack of literacy, really promotes more fear. So I use that a lot in my health navigation world, is if you can just understand what this is, what you're dealing with, you'll be able to get through it a little bit more easily.
Right.
And I think we all need to embrace that philosophy now. We need to get through the understanding of what this is, how it's affecting our body, how it might affect our body, how it affects everybody's body differently, how this virus mutates. And there's so many aspects of it that we are just going to have to understand on the run here and on the go.
Right, as it is, right. So if we're talking about, having a judicious approach, because I think that's sort of, even though you and I are both in general positive people, yeah. So having a judicious and balanced approach, as balanced as we can be, how would you address that? I mean, because it's similar to, I guess, the way that you would approach someone's healthcare. Someone's going to explain to you in your business, hey, listen, this is what's happened to my mom, or this is the test that they're requiring me to have. I don't know if it's the right thing. So how is it that we can be that advocate for each other and for ourselves?
Yeah. Well, again, I think it goes back to understanding. If you said to me, my mom has XYZ and I don't understand this lab test, I don't understand this diagnostic test, and I don't understand what that doctor that we went to this afternoon said, I would say, Katie, let's break this down. Let me take a look at that, whether it's an x-ray or the report of that x-ray or those labs, and I can go over every single aspect of that with you. And once you understand it, then we can come up with some questions. But when you don't have an understanding, we don't even know what questions to ask. So I think that again, knowledge is power, and understanding something really helps people abate some of the fears.
Right. And I think that also we can even take that expression even farther. Knowledge is power, but knowledge is nothing unless it's acted upon. And I'm not saying but you have to understand and have the complete knowing. And then what are the small steps that you're going to take? The small steps. For some people, it's organizing their photographs or organizing their sock drawer. Awesome. For some people, it's, coming up and getting on Meetup and creating a group to help the homeless people in their community, because where are they in lockdown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Let's just be real. There are people. So there are, I'm doing my part, which is to connect powerful people in a form that other people can hear what these game changers are out there doing. And again, any of the viewers listening, you are that. You have the power. You have the uniqueness. We need you. We need your unique voice. We need your unique thoughts and your skills. And it's time to take that bold action into whatever that looks like for you. It's not going to look like your neighbor. It's not going to, but it's all wonderful and it's all needed.
Right. I think too, Katie, when you look about, we've lost, the unemployment, and that's real. That is a very real issue that we are going to be facing today.
Yes.
What I do think also, out of this comes growth. And like, if you look at Amazon and you look at the increase that they're hiring people to do their deliveries, to pack their boxes, they're giving people $2 an hour raises. I love that. People need to be delivering food for people who can't get out or don't want to go out. So there's opportunity, again, to reinvent ourselves, to find where's the need. I mean, when you think about it,
love that.
A lot of entrepreneurs, we will create their companies or their businesses based upon need. There's a lot of need right now. So I think we're going to see a different area of growth. Yes, we don't have our restaurants, we don't have our waitresses, and all of the people, the service industries, all of the salons where we get our hair cut, but this is an opportunity to dig into that creative piece of us and say, okay, there was a salon in town here in Newburyport. I read one of the posts that they were saying, listen, if you know your hair color and you're a patron here, we'll mix it up for you and take it home and you can put your hair color on. I mean, it's like,
it's so awesome. I mean, those are the little things that really matter. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, it is that, right? Yeah. It's like, let's watch a YouTube on how to actually do your own nails, or let's, I don't cook anything. Let me learn. I don't know how to hang shelves. Like, you can find the resources. And then what are the skills that you have that you don't think it's any big deal? but I need to know how to do it. I don't know how to change a tire on a bike. I don't, there are hundreds of things that I don't need. So I need all of you viewers to share what it is you have. So I'm just going to want to be respectful of your time, Amy. Is there any last minute thing that you want to share before we conclude? And we will absolutely talk again, Amy, because I think you're a massive resource of information. And I really thank you for doing
Thank you.
this.
Well, Katie, thank you so much for asking me to join you on this. It's really been my pleasure. And I think that as we go through this every whatever week or right now, I think that we're going to come up with different opportunities, different ideas, and different ways that we can, you know, help to make a difference. And I think that's really what it is. We got to make a difference in our lives and other people's lives every single day during this time. And if we do embrace that idea, I think that we'll get through this all together in our.
Amen. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to share my book, Claim Your Inner Badass. It's available on Amazon. I'm going to discount this. I'm just going to take my profit off the page, and I'll be sharing that link on Amazon. The reason why I'm pitching my book, it may seem kind of silly, but a lot of these things that are going to help us get through this, like self-sabotage, what are you tolerating, how to have healthy relationships, how to create a health and wellness plan that works for you, dealing with fear, dealing with wounds that maybe are coming up to heal. This is your time to heal. And I'm really looking forward to sharing this, and please support me on that. Again, I'm discounting that down on Amazon. So I'm just going to take my profit off the table, and let's just do this. Let's work together on healing. And thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate that. There will be some comments in the link. Again, you can find Amy. The talk again is holistically navigating your way through our current healthcare crisis. And Amy's website is there, and we're also going to be adding in her LinkedIn and her other social media. So thank you so much. Stay healthy, stay well. Blessings to all of you. My heart to yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katie.